So we're going to take a little look at how to create segmentation rules in STL Studio. I'm going to use Studio 2019 for this because it's the current version. And to show you the files, I've created 3 different types of text files. They all contain the same text, but I've structured them in a way that each one requires different segmentation rules in order to be able to handle them. So that can show us how to do 3 different types of examples. So I'm just going to create this project. I'll use the default settings. That's my project ready to go. Open it up. There's my project. And if I just open all the files up at once, you can see that I've got my first file, which is a comma only, just has the names of the fruits separated by a comma. The second file, which is a comma space, is all of the fruits separated by a comma followed by a space. And the last file is a tab delimited file, so it's all of the fruits separated by a tab. So we're going to take a look at how to use the segmentation rules in order to be able to segment this, because translating it like this wouldn't be very pleasurable, because you'd end up with lots of nonsense in your translation memory, or you'd have to manually segment everyone by splitting the segments. I don't know, probably first there. You'd split the segment and then you'd do it again here, and you just have to keep going through the file splitting the segments, and we don't want to have to do that because you're going to end up with a very difficult file to deal with too many splits, and it's a lot of work. So instead we're going to do it by handling the segmentation rules. So first of all, I'm going to go to my translation memories view, where I'm going to open a translation memory. So I've created 3 translation memories here. They're completely empty. They've got no customization on them at all. We'll start off with the comma only segmentation. So I open that so it appears on my list, and then I can either click on settings or I can right click and choose settings. Doesn't matter which way you go. Then I go to the language resources, my segmentation rules, and edit my segmentation rules. And in here I've got to add 2 segmentation rules. The reason I need 2 is the first one is going to tell the file to segment before the comma. That's the first thing. So then I'm going to end up with a file that contains the first fruit, and then the second line is going to be comma name of fruit, then comma name of fruit, comma name of fruit, right the way through. So then I need to create a second rule to segment after the comma, so that I have name of fruit, comma, name of fruit, comma, split up throughout the file. So I'm going to add my first rule, and to do this I'll call it the comma only rule 1. And here I've got 3 options in this basic view to specify what characters there are before the break, what the actual break character is, and what characters are after the break. So before the break, I want to identify that there are letters before that last letter, which is the break character. The break character is going to be the last letter before the comma. So I just want text. The break character itself is going to be a character. Now to do this, I would have to use a regular expression, because it could be any letter, and I've got no other way of entering this type of information. So I could use like a \W. But if I use that in here, notice that the before break and after break both have a checkbox for regular expressions. The middle column does not have that. So if I click on the advanced view, where you can see what has actually happened, it's added a / before the \W, which in effect means this rule is now going to look for the characters \W, whereas what I want it to do is to look for any single character, a number or text, because that's what \W actually means. So I need to go back here, and because I cannot add a regular expression in here, put something else in its place. I know I could have just edited it in the advanced view, but it's easier if I just use one single character, because then I can see exactly where I need to make the change. And as the rules get bigger and more complicated, depending on what you're doing, this is, for me anyway, I find this a far easier way of working my way through the advanced rules in Studio. So I'm going to use an X for the break character, and after the break I just want a comma. So I can just put a comma in there. So if I then click on the advanced view, you can see after the break I've got a comma, before the break I've got all these things. I don't really know why Studio's done that, but I'm going to let it do what it wants at the moment. I think you could probably write that in this more simplified way. I don't think we need this this expression here, but anyway, we'll let Studio do what it wants to do. And I'm going to replace that X with a \W, because this is going to represent any character. And then I say OK. That's my first rule. And if I just continue through that and then actually open a file with that translation memory, and I can do that by going to the I'm not going to use the single document translation by dragging and dropping. Instead, I'm going to use the file translate single document. This is good for testing. I wouldn't recommend you use this. It's better to create projects normally, but this is good for testing. I'll take the comma only text, open it, and then I'm going to use a file-based translation memory, and I'll use the comma only one because that's the one we've just been picking up. And if I click on OK, this is going to open the file, apply those segmentation rules to it, and you can see that I have indeed broken the segments before the comma. So the next thing I need to do is create the second rule, which is going to break it after the comma, so that I have the commas on a separate line. So I close it again, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on Control-Shift-O again, pick the comma only. This time I'm going to go to my settings in the translation memory that's already there, because this is the one I'm using. Go to my segmentation rules, edit, and I'm going to add a second rule. So I'm going to add comma only rule 2. And then for rule 2, before the break, there's actually nothing before the break, because the segments now start with a comma followed by the name of the fruit. So I'm just going to remove this and say nothing before the break whatsoever. I then need to have a break character, and I want to break on the comma this time. So I can put a comma in there because I don't need to use a regular expression, because a comma is always going to be a comma. That's what I want. After the break is going to be some text, so I'll just select text. I don't need to go to the advanced view because I've been able to select everything I needed in here, so I'm just going to click OK. I could go to the advanced view if I wanted to, but I don't want to. So I'm going to click on OK, and then OK, and then OK. And hopefully when the file opens up, it'll be segmented with a separate fruit on each line, followed by a comma on its line, and followed by the fruit. So this is looking better. Now I'm in a much better situation to be able to translate this file, if only I could get rid of the commas. And the way to do that is to use the display filter. There's two display filters in Studio. I'll show you the one in the Review tab first. So I can go to the Review tab, and I can search in here for a comma, and then just hit the return key. And this is going to filter on everything that's in there which is only a comma. So then I can select them all by holding the Shift key down and clicking on the bottom segment. I can right click copy source to target just for completeness. I can right click change the segment status to translated because that's what they are. And then what I do is I just press Ctrl L. When I do that, that locks those segments. I then come back to here, delete the comma so I'm not filtering on it anymore. Press the enter key, and now I'm showing everything, and then I can click on the all segments, scroll down, and I can show only unlocked. And when I do that, all I'm left with now is the actual words I need to be translating. So fairly quickly I can tidy this file up and make it in a format which is going to be far easier for me to work with. So that's the first thing. Now let's take a look at the second file. So I'm going to close this, say no, don't bother saving the changes to that. I click on my welcome view. I'll use Control-Shift-O again, and this time we'll take the comma space. So the same thing is going to apply here. I'm not going to use this TM because that's not going to work for that one. I could change the rules in there, but I'm just going to use another TM, so I'll use this comma plus space. This also has no rules in there yet, so I go to my settings, language resources, segmentation rules, and edit, and I'm going to add some rules. So this is going to be the comma plus space rule 1. For the same reason as before, I need 2 because I need to break before the comma and I need to break after the comma. So the first one, before the break, it's just text because I want to identify that there are letters before the last letter, which is actually going to be the break character, to break before the comma. So this is just text, so that's fair enough. The second one is going to be a break character as it was before. We know I can't use a regular expression, so I'll enter an X and I'll add the regular expression in a minute. And then the last thing I want to do after the break is going to be a comma followed by a space. Again, I'm having to use a regular expression for this, so I cannot put anything in here. I'll just leave it as white space for a second because that's something that's for part of the regular expression. And then I click on the advanced view. So under my X, I replace the X with a \W as I did before. And this time after the break, I need to add a comma before there, because this time it's a comma followed by a space. \S is the regular expression for a space. I click on OK. There's my first rule. If I click on OK, we can just double check and make sure that worked. In practice, you could just add both rules straight away, but because I'm showing you in the video, I just want to explain so you can see what's happening. So that's done the same as before. It's broken before the comma, and now I need to break after the comma and the space. So I close the file, go back to my welcome view, Control-Shift-O, take the comma plus a space, go to my settings where I can now go to language resources and edit my other rules. It's definitely nice to have a shortcut to language resources or to segmentation rules or something like that in the ribbon here. It's a bit of a palaver having to go all the way through these menus. And tell me won't take me there. Not yet. So I can now add comma plus space rule 2. And what I'm actually doing here, I need to, first of all, what's my second rule? So I want to be having before the break nothing whatsoever, because now I've got a comma and space followed by the word, so there's nothing before the break. I want to break after that comma and the space. So the break characters, comma and the space I can't put in there because I can't use a regular expression in there, so I put an X, and after the break is just going to be text, so I can actually just have text on that one. I don't actually need to worry about putting anything, any regular expression in or anything special in there. Go to my advanced view, and all I'm going to do now is change the X for a comma and a space, which is going to be comma \S. I don't need to change after the break. I click on OK. That's my second rule. OK, OK. And now when I OK the file, it should open up and should be properly segmented. It is. So then I will show you another way to get rid of the commas. And I'll use the advanced display filter while we're doing it this time. So the first thing I'll do is I'll click on the content, and in the source I'm just going to search for a comma. I don't need to search for a space because there actually isn't one there. Although there was one in the file, Studio is going to truncate any spaces at the end of a sentence and not show them in here. They'll be there in the final file, but they're not here in the editor. So all I need to do is search for that comma. So I'll just apply the filter, and then I get all my commas. So I scroll down the bottom, same as before. I don't need to do this, but for completeness, it might be handy sometimes just so that the file looks as though it's completely translated. Then I can go back to my advanced display filter. I can clear that. Then I go to my filter attributes, go down to segment locking. If it's not open, you just open it like that. And then, oh, I forgot to lock them. That wasn't very smart, wasn't it? Okay, so I take translated like that. Apply the filter, that gets me back to where I was before, and I just Control L. That locks them all. Come back to my advanced display filter. Sorry, I forgot to lock them, that was a bit foolish. I'll remove this one, and I'll just take unlocked. So get rid of that, get rid of that. I just want unlocked in here and apply the filter. I made that look a whole lot harder than it was. It's actually just as easy to use as the other one. But anyway, same principle applies. Now I've got all my file ready for me to work on. So that's how you do it with a comma and a space. And the last one I want to show you is actually the easiest. It's the tab delimited. And to do that, if I go back to my file again and I open this up, I take the tab delimited file this time. And I don't want the comma plus. I want the tab SGLTM. In actual fact, this one is the easiest of all to do. I go to my segmentation rules. I add a new rule, call it my tab rule. I only need one rule for this, and basically before the break is text. The break character itself is a tab which I can select from the list here, and after the break is going to be text, and I click on OK, and that's it. Click on OK again, and I open my file, and if we're lucky, the file will be completely segmented. And I haven't even got anything to remove because the tabs are considered white spaces and they're removed from the view, so you don't see them anyway. So it becomes really, really nice. And that's it. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you can see from that the basic idea behind how to create your custom segmentation rules, and hopefully that will make your life a lot easier. Thank you.